What made me want to become an attorney? I think like a lot of my generation, I was told if you go to college, get your 4-year degree, you'll be fine, you'll get a job. That's just your foot in the door or wherever. It's just not true. I think that's what my parents' generation experienced. And so I got my degree in English literature and couldn't find a job. And I thought, okay, what am I going to do? The legal profession, I had a couple of friends that were going through law school. It sounded attractive, and I thought I'd try it. After my first week or two in classes, I knew, yep, I enjoy this. I enjoy the mental aspect of this. I really enjoy helping people that deserve my help and solving people's problems and eliminating problems from their future that they don't even know are coming. One of the major things that people don't anticipate, everybody thinks about what happens when I die. What happens if I get in a car wreck and I die? What happens if you get in a car wreck and you don't die and you're horribly incapacitated? That's definitely something people think of less. That can be much more difficult. You've got somebody that's totally incapacitated. You can't access their money to take care of them. You can't sign anything for them. You can't discuss their medical diagnosis and treatment. There are even situations where parents, let's say one parent dies and the child inherits money from another parent. That surviving parent may be their legal guardian, but they don't have the authority to manage their inheritance, and they have to go get guardianship over their own child. So estate planning eliminates that. I'd say that's the biggest aspect that people don't really consider. The questions people should ask when they're looking for a good estate planning attorney, I always ask clients at the end of a consultation, what haven't I asked you? What did you expect to talk about that we didn't talk about? And I think that clients should ask their attorneys the same thing. What didn't I ask? What didn't I talk about? What do I not know? I think that's probably the best thing you can ask. That is the goal during a consultation, is I know all the things you don't know. And I'm anticipating, I'm looking forward, I'm looking for the holes that if you do this, then that's gonna happen. You can sit there and look at all of their different factors and all these permutations of all the different plans and all the different methods of achieving their goals and achieving their objectives for planning or taking care of a spouse, taking care of their kids, making sure they don't end up, disabled in a hospital. It's fun to run through all of that and figure out what's the best combination of those things. Most of the time, they've either been through a probate, like a parent, or age. They're getting older and they're thinking about, they're just more directly confronted with their mortality. And that's great that people are coming in at that age, but younger people need to come in too, especially people with young children. They need to have something set up so that someone can come take care of their children if something happens to them with a minimum of cost and a minimum of difficulty in taking over the role as that child's guardian. Figure out where they live, figure out medical care for them, provide for their health, education, maintenance, support. If you have to get guardianship of a child's estate, that can cost tens of thousands of dollars a year just for the legal work. And we want to avoid that. It's very easy to avoid. Just put everything in a trust. If there's a trust and there's a trustee, you don't need a guardian. You have to prepare for everything. When you're preparing for a trial, your goal is to try and predict all of the things that can go wrong. And so if you're not over preparing, you're not prepared. It's not a good position to be as the client, because you may be doing, your attorney may be doing a bunch of extra work that in the end doesn't need to be done, but you sure don't want to be caught unprepared for that. And then working together with our team, all of our support staff, the other attorneys, our paralegals help us manage all the deadlines and analyze the situation, help us prepare for trial, prepare binders, prepare materials. Our staff, our front of house staff, make sure phone calls are being returned and the customers can get to it, the clients can get to us. So it's a lot goes into it. It's 99% preparation. it comes together because everybody cares about the outcome of the case and everybody cares about the result for the client. And so we're a team, and then the firm and the client are also a team, because we really can't do the best possible job without the help of our client. They know all the facts. They know everything better than we do. And so the more confidence they have in us to tell us things, it's don't ever try and figure out what is relevant. Give me everything. I'll figure it out. I don't want to have to ask the question later, what didn't you tell me? Tell me everything. I'm your attorney. You're part of the team. So the role of a client in a case like we just want is to make sure that we have as much information as possible, to be totally honest with us, respond to us when we're asking questions, if we ask for documentation. One of the things that really helps us is, if a client comes in with a banker's box full of unorganized papers, that doesn't help us a lot. Because if we have to go through it, it's going to be cost prohibitive. And so the more a client can present materials to us in an organized fashion, the more it helps us, the more it helps them. That's what a lot of preparation is organizing and setting up your materials and your evidence and your exhibits to make sense and figure out what you want to spend your time on, what you don't want to spend your time on. So I'd say that pretty well describes the role of the client in trial. And then to show up. It took her a second to figure out that she had one, as she was emotional. She'd been put through the ringer, and it made me feel good too, because it was sort of one we were supposed to win. We had a very, very strong case, but still, it was a jury trial, and the juries are an X factor. You never know. You can have the best case in the world and they'll go against you. But when you're supposed to win, the pressure's really on, because what if you don't? But that's why you prepare. I was not all that nervous. I felt really good about it. And the jury came back in under half an hour for us, which is very quick. You get what you pay for. You really do get what you pay for. And let's talk about, like, in the context of estate planning, at least, estate planning is going to save you today. It's going to cost either less than a single probate. Let's say estate planning costs X. Probate of you and your spouse can be up to 2X or 3X or 10X that cost, 10 times that cost. And so when people try to go a cheaper route, it looks like savings now that results in paying a whole lot more in the future. And if you're younger, it's going to be just that much more expensive to probate an estate in the future, because you want to avoid the probate process. You want to avoid having to take your will to court, hiring an attorney, going through that process, that rigmarole. You can totally avoid all of that. Let's say it just cost exactly the same to do estate planning and probate a will. Well, one way, you don't have to probate the will, and the other, you do have to probate the will and you still pay the same. So it's worth avoiding the hassle and the time and the stress. It's not a fun procedure. It's stressful for a lot of people. Yeah, some simple practical advice would be to talk to an attorney that engages in the specific area of practice you need the service in. If you need to form a business, talk to a business attorney. If you need, like we form businesses, if you need, if you've been injured in a car wreck, go talk to a personal injury attorney. Don't try and do things yourself. The results are never as good. I read everything, but if I'm just reading for pleasure, just to turn my brain off, it's science fiction, which I say that and I'm like, no, because I think science fiction can be cerebral and deep and important. But yeah, I like to read. I read every day. And so I would say that's one of my primary hobbies, is reading. Well, it's like a chef going home and cooking, right? But I like to read. I do. I love reading. So it's probably why my eyes have gotten worse over the years.